Finance and Banking, Universitas Utara Malaysia. Dr. Normizan is in Economic Department. The affiliation is Economic Department, and you could contact him at normizan@uum.edu.my. Okay, and today he would love to deliver a very interesting topic, exchange rate and balance of payment determination. So maybe beforehand I will deliver his CV, academic qualification in 1999, bachelor degree of economics, Kagoshima University, Japan, and then 2001, master economics, Kagoshima University, Japan, and 2015, PhD ekonomi antarbangsa, Waseda University, Japan. Oh, all of about Japan. So maybe Dr. Normizan could also speak in Japanese.
Inshallah. Inshallah.
Inshallah, maybe you can teach us about that. Okay,
Yeah.
Without any delay, the time is your, doctor. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and good morning. Alhamdulillahi rabbil alamin, wassalatu wassalamu ala asrafil anbiya'i wal mursalin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Wa bisalli sadri wa sili amri wa l'uqdatan min lisani yafqahu qawli. Allahumma salli ala sayyidina Muhammad wa ala sayyidina Muhammad. First of all, thank you, Dr. Dia, and thank you, UMY, for inviting me to have this guest lecture series. I think this is the second time, right? So last semester we have this
correct, the second time, and we hope that we will continue.
Inshallah. And for the best one is for you all students for joining this lecture this morning. For my student from UUM and from Dr. Dia's student from UMY. Okay. I'm not an expert in international finance, but I studied international finance and teaching international finance too. But my research mainly focused on the international trade. Okay, but as you do international trade, you need to know a bit about international finance too. Okay, so what I'm going to share with you today is my lecture notes. Okay, so I delivered this note to my students. So today I would like to summarize it and share with you. But not in detail, because this course take about 3 weeks to finish up. So I want to comprise it in 1 hour. So I would like to give it in briefly, and then you can go ahead, read the textbook for the detail. Okay. So now can I share my slide?
Okay, Mas Dana, please. Setting doctor as a co-host.
Sudah Bu.
Okay.
You can share your screen.
Sorry. So now, wait a minute. So now can you see my screen?
Yes, doctor.
Clearly?
Yes.
Yes, thank you very much. So today is a lecture, so I would like to use this blackboard. So I would like to write during the lecture too. So I hope you can with me for about an hour discussing about this exchange rate and balance of payment determination. These are the very basic topics that we always see or learn when we take the international finance. So what we are going to do today is that, okay, our target is simple. Want to know the approach that economists create in order to check or to see the effects of exchange rate to balance of payment and vice versa, from the balance of payment and the trade to the exchange rate too. So today we are going to see the traditional approach and monetary approach. So our media today, first I would like to share with you our brief target, and then before we go through to the approaches that we are to share today, I use this textbook for my lecture and for this note too. Okay, this International Monetary and Financial Economics by Joseph Daniel and David Van Hoos. So for those who want to know in depth, okay, the contents that I'm going to share with you, you can check this textbook. Okay, and today our lecture based on chapter 8 and chapter 9 of this textbook. Okay. You can check this content in other textbooks too, but might be not arranged as what I have today. Okay, for example, if you check recruitment textbook, it doesn't have a specific chapter for traditional approach and monetary approach. Or if you check the Cabot's textbook that we use in international economics, also it doesn't have the traditional approach and monetary approach chapter. So, but in this textbook, the International Monetary and Financial Economy that we have here, it has a specific chapter for these approaches. So I guess, and I suggest this textbook for you. All right. So now, sorry. Okay, here. This is our target. That is, you want to look briefly about the approach we have in international finance in order to see the effects of exchange rate and balance of payment. Okay? So we call it Elasticity Approach, Absorption Approach, Monetary Approach, and Portfolio Approach. Okay. Usually, my lecture will be given in two languages, English and Malay. So today, I would like to give my lecture in English and Malay too. Okay. Can you hear me, Dr. Dia?
Yes, doctor.
Okay,
Yes.
okay. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay.
All right. So if you can watch this screen or can hear my voice, please let me know.
Yes, okay. I will.
Because I'm using iPad, so I don't know what happened to the Zoom what we got portal right now. Okay.
Oh, okay. I see.
Okay.
I see.
Yes.
Okay, I
So
will, doctor.
okay, thank you. So this ini kita punya target hari ini, iaitu kita nak melihat 4 kaedah. Okay. Approach ini dalam bahasa kita panggil kaedah, kalau di Malaysia lah dalam masa lalu, ataupun pendekatan. Okay. Oh, this is a technique. Okay. Yang pertama kita panggil elasticity, iaitu keanjalan, absorption, penyerapan. Okay, ini nama-nama yang diberikan kepada approach tersebut lah. Kemudian monetary dan juga portfolio. Okay. So ini 4 kaedah yang kita akan perhatikan yang biasa digunakan pakai dalam apa kita panggil kewangan antarabangsa. Alright. So kenapa ada 4 ini? Okay. Why we have these 4 approach? Because 2 approach here is a traditional approach. Okay, it based on the trade, based on the import and export. Okay. We will see in deep about this one. And the second part here, based on the financial sector, based on the money supply and the financial products, there is securities, bond, and so on. Okay, so this is our target. We want to know these 4 approaches in brief, not in detail. Okay, as I told you, in brief. Okay, jadi kita nak perhatikan ini secara kita panggil kasar saja. Okay, sebabnya kita
Participant, could you please mute Mas Dana? Oh, wait, sir. I will ask
okay.
Mas Danang co-host to mute Mbak Titi. Hello. 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 Mas Danang, could you hear me, Danang? Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Mas Danang, could you? Okay, thank you. I also co-host. I can mute everybody. Thank you.
Okay. All right.
Okay, I'm sorry for the inconvenience and shortcomings, Doctor.
Okay, it's okay. So now, can I continue?
Yes, please, Doctor.
Okay, thank you. All right. So this is the points that you can get today. There is take-home point. Okay. Now we use the word take-home point, meaning that these are points that you can bring home from this lecture. So we have 4 approaches. Okay, and in economic, usually we want to know the equations that explains those theory or those in this case the approach. Okay, so the first approach is the elasticity. So the equation that we use is the elasticity of demand of import and elasticity of supply of export. Okay, and also elasticity of demand of currency and elasticity of supply of currency. That's why we call it as the elasticity. Okay, and the second one is the absorption. There is about the income and absorption. So we have this equation y minus a equal to x minus n. We will look in detail about this one later on. Okay, and then the third one is the monetary. You usually see about it. Okay, so this is about the money supply and money demand. So the left equation, or in this case the top equation, is the money supply, and the below one is the money demand. So in monetary, the argument is that money supply equal to money demand. So this is the equation. And then the last one is the portfolio. It's about wealth. Okay, so there is about bond that household hold. Okay, and then foreign bond and the money supply. Money that they hold. Okay, so these are 4 equations that we use in order to explain this one. So looking at this equation, you can now guess that what we are going to learn today is that to explain how we create or how we derive this equation. Okay, we like to see how economists create this equation in order to explain that export and import affect the exchange rate, national income affect the exchange rate, and also the monetary supply and demand affect the exchange rate, and the last one, how the securities and the interest rate affect the exchange rate. Okay, so I hope that you will get these 4 points. Okay, so ini perkara penting yang kita akan dapat daripada lecture kita hari ini paling kurang. Okay, iaitu pertama, keanjalan. Yang keanjalan itu adalah keanjalan import, permintaan import, dan juga keanjalan ekspor sebenarnya, keanjalan supply. Okay, dan keanjalan bagi permintaan wang dan keanjalan bagi penawaran wang. Okay, semua itu disebut sebagai elasticity lah, elasticity demand of import, elasticity supply of export, and so on. Dan yang kedua adalah penyerapan, iaitu kita lihat perbezaan antara income dan juga absorption. Okay, ini equation yang diterbitkan oleh ahli ekonomi untuk menerangkan kesan tersebut. Okay, untuk menyatakan kesan tersebut. Dan yang ketiga, monetary, kita lihat dari segi money supply penawaran wang, dan juga money demand, permintaan wang. Okay. And the last one is the portfolio, iaitu pemilikan kekayaan. So pemilikan kekayaan ni diringkaskan dalam bentuk pemilikan wang dan pemilikan bond domestik, okay, dan juga bond antarabangsa. So kita mudahkan di sini, those securities tu kita jadikan sebagai bond sajalah. Sebenarnya banyak lagi securities lain kan. Alright. So now let's take a look on this elasticity approach. So elasticity approach
Hello,
okay.
Doctor.
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
It's okay?
Okay, Doctor.
Okay, elasticity approach is about the price effect. There is price of the export and the price of the export. Okay. So elasticity approach assumes that demand and supply of foreign currency are created by the import and export, meaning that import and export, or some of import and export, we usually call it as trade. So trade affect the supply and demand of forex. So import will create demand of foreign currency, and export will create the supply of foreign currency. All right, so that's why we can see trade affect the forex, and at the same time forex will affect the trade. Okay, so that's why this elasticity explains about the exchange rate and explains about the balance of payment. So as the elasticity of export and elasticity of import change, then it will change the demand and supply of foreign currency. And at the same time, as the exchange rate change, and the what we call it as the elasticity change, and it also will change the import and export. Okay, this will change the trade. So by having this first approach, we can analyze the change in export, the change in export, and change of exchange rate effect. The what we call it as the dual effects of these two factors, okay, import and export. And the advanced analysis of the elasticity, okay, can be seen from the analysis of Marshall-Lerner condition. Okay, so Marshall-Lerner condition is the advanced analysis of the elasticity, where we can see the effects of exchange rate and the balance of payment. Okay, whether the change in exchange rate will change the balance of payment, that is, will change the current account surplus or deficit. Okay. For those who want to know more about Marshall-Lerner condition, you can open books of recruitment for the advanced one, or you can see cardboard or the textbook that I have shown to you before. Okay, for learning more deep about the Marshall-Lerner conditions, because I cannot explain it here because it takes time. Okay, and the second advanced analysis of using this elasticity. So by using the elasticity approach, we can also have the J-curve analysis. I think most of you have heard about the curve analysis, J-curve phenomena. There is exchange rate change and the balance of payment. Okay, so when we consider time of effect, okay, as the exchange rate change, we know that balance of payment also will change. But sometime in a country, it needs time for balance of payment to change, and sometimes when the exchange rate depreciates, it will worsen the current account, then improve the current account. So that's time when the balance of payment going down, like this one. Okay, so if we see the balance of payment, there is the current account going down and then it goes up. So this part look like as a J, alphabet J, so that's why we call it a J curve. Okay. So elasticity approach tells to us that trade, there is import and export affects the exchange rate. Okay, we already know about that, but elasticity approach defined to us and confirm to us that those trade affect the exchange rate, and exchange rate to affect the import and export. Now let me look back on this point in Malay. Okay, so elasticity approach yang pertama ini dia menekankan kepada price effect, kita panggil, iaitu kesan harga. So apa maksud dia kesan harga di sini adalah import dan ekspor, iaitu kita nama perdagangan lah. Perdagangan ni bermaksud import dan ekspor. So import dan ekspor ni memberi kesan kepada supply. Supply apa? Currency. That is forex. Okay, di mana yang supply itulah forex exchange. So dia memberi kesan kepada currency tersebut. Bagaimana dia memberi kesan? Kerana sebenarnya demand kepada foreign currency ini wujud bila adanya import barang. Manakala supply pada foreign currency ini wujud bila ada export barang. Okay, so that's why import dan export memberi kesan kepada exchange rate. And then at the same time, pada masa yang sama kita dapati exchange rate itu bila berlaku perubahan pada exchange rate, dia akan memberi kesan kepada demand and supply ni, dan memberi kesan kepada import dan export ni. Jadi linkage tersebut, bagaimana kita nak melihat dia? Kita lihat kepada elasticity of demand, elasticity of supply. And that's why ini dinamakan sebagai elasticity. Sebenarnya hubungan ini biasa, sebab kita memang dah tahu bahawa import dan export memberi kesan kepada exchange rate, dan exchange rate memberi kesan kepada import dan import. So ini kaedah untuk kita menerangkan hubungan tersebut. So analisis lanjutan kepada elasticity ini adalah yang pertama, kita boleh lihat pada analisis yang dipanggil sebagai syarat Marshall Lerner. Okay, dalam bahasa Melayu kita panggil syarat Marshall, syarat Marshall Lerner. Alright. Okay. So apa yang maksud dengan syarat Marshall ni adalah satu analisis yang nak menerangkan hubungan antara exchange rate dan balance of payment. Okay. So bagaimana exchange rate ini akan memberi kesan pada balance of payment? Itu memberi kesan kepada import dan export tadi. Kita kena lihat kesan kepada supply and kesan kepada demand. There is elasticity demand dan juga elasticity supply. Itu Marshall Lerner condition. Okay. Cerita dia panjang, jadi saya tak boleh nak terangkan di sini secara detail. Tetapi kepada yang berminat, kamu boleh buka buku teks yang saya suggestkan tadi, ataupun buka buku Harvard untuk basic dia. Tapi untuk advance dia mungkin dalam buku Krugman, Paul Krugman. Dalam buku Paul Krugman dia agak bincang lebih detail sedikit tentang Marshall Lerner. Ataupun kalau kamu rajin, di YouTube pun sebenarnya banyak diterangkan tentang Marshall Lerner condition kan. Boleh pergi lihat kepada Marshall Lerner condition. Okay. So this second. Yang kedua adalah J curve. Okay, J curve, keluk J. Kenapa dinamakan keluk J ini? Kerana apabila kita mengambil kira masa dalam efek exchange rate kepada balance of payment. Sebenarnya bila exchange rate balance of payment ni exchange rate kepada trade tadilah. Okay. So bila satu-satu mata wang jatuh contohnya, sepatutnya bila mata wang jatuh kita akan mengurangkan import kita kan. Okay, akan menambahkan ekspor. Jadi current account akan lebih baiklah. Tapi ada ketika bila duit tu jatuh, dia akan lagi teruk. Kan? So bila lagi teruk itu, kalau kita gambarkan dia jatuh, dia lagi jatuh ke bawah sini. Okay? Kemudian baru dia improve balik. So bentuk inilah macam huruf J, jadi namakan sebagai J curve. Okay? So dia menekankan pada ketika tertentu akan berlaku keadaan yang kita panggil sebagai J curve. Okay, ini satu analisis yang biasa kita jumpa bila kita belajar international finance about the exchange rate ini. Okay, so now let's move to the second part. The second part is the absorption approach. Okay, so absorption approach stress on the income effects. Let me see. Okay, what is their main argument here? So they create the equation that they call it as the absorption. Okay, or the A for absorb. Okay, so absorb means that what we use, absorbs of goods and services. So that absorptions come from the consumption, C, I, the investment, G is the government, okay, government consumption, and I am this import. Okay. So there is the total expenditure. So they call it as the absorption. Okay. While they create this equation, because they want to see the effects of income, there is GDP in general term. Okay. There is a real income from this definition. Okay. So this identity show the real income. That's why there is consumption plus investment plus government plus X the export. So this is income identity. Okay. So to see the effects of the income and absorption, when we equate okay, Y and A, we get these results too. That is CA. Current income. So meaning that income that we have, and then from income that we have, how much we use for the absorption, okay, how much we use for the absorption, then it will affect the current account. Okay, for example, if income is larger than absorption, then exchange rate will appreciate. So that is the result that comes from this analysis. And if the income less than the absorption, then exchange rate will depreciate. Okay, so by using this absorptions approach, we can analyze effects of government policies too, and at the same time, it means that government can use this approach to create a policy. Okay, that is whether they want to raise spending or reduce the tax, reduce the consumption, and reduce the inventories and so on, in order to change the exchange rate. Okay, so that's why they have, for example, expenditure switching instrument. Okay, expenditure switching instruments. There is the policy that switch the consumption, switch the investment, switch the government, and so on. Because we know that by changing those variables, we can also control the exchange rate. Meaning that by alter the import and export, or by devaluate the exchange rate. So when we control the exchange rate, it will affect the CING too, and we control the CING, it will affect the exchange rate too. Okay, so how can we explain that effects? Okay, or that relation is by using the absorptions approach. So that is the second approach. So now let me explain this part in Malay base. Okay. So yang kedua adalah apa yang kita panggil sebagai kaedah penyerapan. I don't know how you call it in dalam bahasa Indonesia. Dalam bahasa Melayu dipanggil kaedah penyerapan. Okay. Kenapa dipanggil kaedah penyerapan? Untuk menerangkan ini, ahli ekonomi menganggap bahawa bahagian penggunaan itu kita namakan sebagai penyerapan. Okay, apa itu penyerapan? Itu sebenarnya GDP juga lah. Kita lihat dari segi expenditure, dari segi perbelanjaan. Okay, dari segi perbelanjaan. Iaitu consumption, consumer, kemudian investment oleh companies, kemudian government punya expenditure dan juga import. Okay, there is import iaitu expenditure yang kita buat melalui import. Okay, so ini absorption identity ataupun expenditure identity lah sebenarnya, persamaan yang kepada penyerapan ini. Alright. So kemudian kita tahu bahawa bagaimana berlakunya expenditure ini datang daripada income. So income tu daripada mana? Daripada identity income lah. Okay, iaitu kita namakan identity income sebagai Y, iaitu dia sebenarnya income of consumer, income of investment, income of government, and the income from export. Okay, income of government is that tax lah. Okay, so that is. So dan kita tahu bahawa current account semasa adalah perbezaan antara ekspor atau import. Jadi daripada income, nation income tadi dengan absorption tadi, bila kita cari dia punya perbezaan, kita akan dapat bahawa Y minus A sama dengan X minus M. Okay, yang ni. X minus M ni adalah current account lah. So current account tu sebenarnya perbezaan antara income dan juga expenditure. Kan? Okay. So ringkasnya, bila kita lihat daripada analisis ini, kita dapati bahawa sekiranya income lebih besar daripada absorb, kita akan dapati exchange rate appreciate. Okay. Dan kalau income kecil daripada absorb, exchange rate akan depreciate. So ini daripada analisis ini. Okay. So daripada analisis yang berbentuk makro ini, kita dapati pelbagai instrumen polisi yang boleh dibuat oleh kerajaan lah, iaitu dengan melakukan peningkatan ataupun pengurangan dalam government expenditure ataupun dalam tax ataupun mengubah consumption ataupun mengubah investment. Okay. Jadi kerajaan boleh gunakan polisi tersebut, dan ataupun kalau kita lihat bahawa perubahan pada polisi tersebut akan memberi perubahan kepada exchange rate ataupun sebaliknya. Kan? Okay, contohnya ada satu instrumen yang dipanggil sebagai expenditure switching instrument. Okay, expenditure switching instrument. Contohnya apa? Beli barangan Malaysia. Beli barangan Malaysia. Ini satu kempen membeli barang Malaysia. Ini adalah expenditure switching instrument. So bila kita lihat di sini, contoh beli barangan Malaysia ini akan mengubahkan consumption. Nampak tak? So kita dapat lihat kesan tersebut. Okay. Selain itu, apa-apa yang instrumen yang boleh mengubah import dan ekspor, dia akan memberi kesan kepada exchange rate itu. Termasuklah kalau berlaku devaluation dalam exchange rate. Okay, bagi yang bentuk fixed rate lah ataupun depreciation of exchange rate, dia akan memberi kesan kepada exchange rate too. Okay, so the third one. So we come to the third point. There is the monetary approach. Okay, the monetary approach. So what we have here is that economists create the equations that represent the money stock and then the equation that represent the money demand, money stock or the money supply. Okay, why? Because economists believe that exchange rate is a money phenomenon. Okay, meaning that money in a country will affect the exchange rate. Okay, so here we have the money stock. Okay, there is domestic, what we call it, cash, and then foreign exchange reserve. Okay, and then here is the money demand. There is the fractions that household want to hold the money, and S is the spot rate, and P asterisk is the foreign flights, and Y is real income. Okay, we need to learn a lot about the balance sheets of central bank and so on in order to create these equations, but I just give a simple one. Came to the last equation that we use in the monetary approach. Okay, if you want to know in detail how we create the multiplier and those monetary base, okay, we call it this monetary base, you need to open the textbook. But this is question that we use to analyze the monetary approach. Okay, for example, what we have here, there is using this equation, central bank alter the monetary base. There is the monetary supply side. Okay, so that's what we call it as the intervention of central bank. So what actually in central bank do is that change this part, okay, by changing or alter the DC of FER. Okay, for the fixed exchange rate, they can control FER. For the floating exchange rate, they can control the DC. So by controlling the money supply, they will affect this money demand, and then it will affect the exchange rate. So that is the idea of monetary approach. So monetary approach, in short, explains to us about the balance of payment and exchange rate relates to the money supply and money demand, meaning that money supply and money demand affect the balance of payment and exchange rate, and the vice versa, exchange rate and balance of payment affect the money supply and money demand too. So there is the monetary approach. Okay, I just give the monetary approach explanation in 2 pages of slide, but actually monetary approach need about 3 hours explanation. But here, in order to short our lecture, I just summarize it in this 2 slides. So now let me put a bit in Malay. So monetary approach ataupun kaedah monetary yang biasa digunakan sekarang ini adalah di mana ahli ekonomi create equation ini. Equation ini menyatakan bahawa money supply sama dengan money demand. Okay, jadi keseimbangan ini yang mempengaruhi exchange rate. Okay, idea dia kerana money dalam negara ini akan memberi kesan kepada exchange rate. Okay, so apa itu? Kita dapati bahawa equation ini adalah mengenai money supply, okay, ataupun money stock, iaitu sebelah multiplier darab dengan DC plus FER. Ini juga dinamakan sebagai monetary base ataupun asas monetary. Okay, asas monetary ini sama dengan asas demand, money demand. Okay, permintaan wang. Permintaan wang ni terdiri daripada fraction pengguna nak memiliki wang atau household nak memiliki wang times dengan spot exchange rate times dengan foreign price of good and then real income. Okay, saya summarize equation yang terakhir dalam monetary approach ini saja. Okay. Tapi sebenarnya untuk create ni seperti dalam kuliah kita panjang cerita dia kan. Kita kena faham monetary base, kita kena faham Cambridge equation and so on, kita dapat ni. Tapi senang lah cerita dia. Dengan equation inilah kita tahu macam mana central bank intervene, campur tangan dalam pasaran. Dalam pasaran apa? Dalam pasaran to exchange rate. Apa yang central bank lakukan adalah ini, dia control monetary base ini. Okay, bermakna dia control monetary, money supply dengan dia menukarkan DC ataupun dia menukarkan FER. Okay, jadi dengan memberi perubahan terhadap monetary supply ataupun monetary demand, money supply and money demand, itu akan memberi kesan kepada exchange rate. Jadi ringkasnya, monetary approach, kaedah monetary ini menceritakan kepada kita money supply and money demand berhubungan dengan balance of payment dan juga exchange rate. Okay. Bermakna central bank control money supply and money demand in order to control the exchange rate and balance of payment. Okay. So that is yang ketiga. And the last one is the portfolio approach. Okay. Portfolio approach. So what is the portfolio approach? We can see this approach by looking at this equation, or we call it as the Webb's equation. There is the money that household hold and the bond. Okay, and we should not have the second bond here. There is bond in domestic market or domestic bond, and bond actually here is the foreign bond. Here is the domestic bond, and here is the foreign bond time the spot rate. Okay, so the idea here is that the exchange rate are affected by the wealth that household want to hold. There is exchange rate affected by the money supply and demand and domestic securities and foreign securities. There is, here is the money, not only the money, but also the securities. If just the money, it's become the monetary approach, but here economists say the portfolio also will affect the exchange rate. That's why we call it as a portfolio. Portfolio means those securities. Okay, securities. But this equation, just a simple equation, we assume bond of in the domestic country and the foreign bonds, the only factor that affects the wealth. Okay, so the change in bond of foreign bond and of the domestic bond will change the wealth that people have, and then will change the exchange rate, meaning that demand of foreign currency and supply of foreign currency not only because of the export and import of goods and services, but also by the purchasing of securities, whether domestic securities and the foreign securities. So the portfolio approach stress on the financial parts of the exchange rate, meaning that not only the flow of export and import of goods and services that affect the exchange rate, but the flow of money through the buying and selling of securities. Okay, for example, the bond of foreign country or bond of domestic country will affect the exchange rate. So that's 4 approaches that explain the exchange rate. Okay. So before I go to the last part, let me explain the portfolio approach in Malay a bit. So kaedah yang keempat kita namakan sebagai portfolio. Okay. Untuk menerangkan portfolio ini, ahli ekonomi create apa yang dipanggil sebagai wealth equation, kebersamaan kekayaan lah kita. Okay, kekayaan itu apa? Digarapkan pemilikan money, wang, dan juga bond tempatan dan bond antarabangsa. Dan bond antarabangsa ini dia berkait dengan exchange rate. Dalam kes ini kita katakan spot rate. Okay, so portfolio approach ni ringkas dia menceritakan dalam kewangan bukan sahaja money supply and demand itu yang mempengaruhi exchange rate, tetapi pemilikan securities. Sama ada securities domestik ataupun security antarabangsa akan memberi kesan kepada exchange rate. Okay, jadi portfolio approach ini ringkas dia cerita kepada kita money supply, money demand plus domestic securities plus foreign securities. Jadi flow mata wang dunia ini, permintaan terhadap mata wang luar dan juga penawaran terhadap mata wang luar ini berlaku kerana pergerakan mata wang. Disebabkan oleh pemilikan security. Bukan kerana ekspor dan import barang saja, tetapi pemilikan security juga memberi kesan kepada exchange rate. Terutama bila kita dapati pergerakan security antarabangsa, bukan melalui FDI sahaja, tapi melalui pergerakan kita panggil pelaburan jangka pendek, melalui security, pembelian security, pembelian saham, pembelian bond, pembelian kita panggil sukuk dan sebagainya, itu memberi kesan kepada exchange rate. Okay. So now the last part here, and can summarize this 4 approach. Okay. So the first one we have elasticity approach. The second one we have absorption approach, portfolio approach, and monetary approach. That affect the exchange rate. Elasticity, there is the elasticity of demand of goods and supply of goods through the import and export will affect the exchange rate. And of course, exchange rate also will affect this elasticity. Okay, and the second one, when we look on the income side, we call it as absorption. That is from the more general view or macroeconomic view. So there is income will affect the exchange rate, and also exchange rate will affect the income. Okay, and the third one is the portfolio. There is securities or financial asset. Okay, so sometimes we call it the asset approach, will affect the exchange rate too, and exchange rate will affect the portfolio too. And one more here in portfolio, why people want to hold the portfolio? Because of the interest rate. So interest rate will affect the exchange rate and balance of payment too. And the last one is the monetary here approach. We call it monetary approach. There is the money supply and money demand. So central bank alter the money supply and money demand in order to change the exchange rate, and exchange rate too affects the money supply and money demand. So these are 4 approaches that economists create in order to explain the determinations of exchange rate and balance of payment. Okay. So secara ringkasnya kita boleh ringkaskan, kita boleh konkludkan ada 4 approach untuk melihat kepada determination penentuan exchange rate ini. Iaitu yang pertama kita namakan dia sebagai elasticity, iaitu kita lihat kesan daripada import dan ekspor barangan dan perkhidmatan kepada exchange rate. So dah sekali dia akan berkesan kepada balance of payment lah. Okay, kita namakan dia elasticity kerana mudah dalam ekonomi bila kita nak melihat kesan perubahan pada import dan ekspor itu adalah kita lihat kepada kesan perubahan harga. Okay, sebab equation di sini seperti saya tunjukkan delta P over delta Q. Okay, if Q is the import, so delta P terhadap import. Okay, percent of delta P ini bermaksud peratus perubahan delta P. Peratus perubahan PAS, kan? So itu sebab kita namakan dia sebagai elasticity, keanjalan. Dan yang kedua adalah kita namakan sebagai penyerapan, iaitu dari segi income for a nation, ataupun biasa kita namakan dia sebagai KDNK dan sebagainya. Okay. So itu dapat memberi kesan kepada exchange rate. Dan yang ketiga, portfolio. Portfolio adalah security, saham-saham, bond dan sebagainya, memberi kesan kepada exchange rate. Kenapa? Kerana pergerakan bond ini menyebabkan pergerakan mata wang, menyebabkan permintaan dan penawaran mata wang. Okay. So bila bincang tentang bond ini, salah satu faktor di sini adalah interest rate, kadar faedah terhadap bond dan securities itu memberi kesan terhadap permintaan portfolio dan memberi kesan kepada exchange rate. So the last one and the most important part, I think, in this modern world, that is the monetary approach. So central bank control exchange rate dengan manipulasi apa yang kita lihat daripada persamaan tadi, iaitu monetary base. Okay, monetary base akan memberi kesan kepada monetary supply, and then dia memberi kesan kepada money demand. Money supply and money demand. So ini 4 approach, dan saya harap kamu dah faham sekarang bahawa determination ini kita boleh lihat daripada 4 approach ini. Setiap approach ni nampak ada persamaan dia, tapi ada sedikit perbezaan dia. Okay, alright. So that is. So thank you for listening, and then insyaAllah we jumpa lagi next semester. So that's all, Dr. Dia. I think it's good because we have just in 1 hour.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Normizan, for the comprehensive explanation in bilingual. Yeah, maybe another occasion we can study Japanese language because you are from Kagoshima. Yeah, but we cannot understand maybe. So it's very comprehensive, and we have already understanding about the theory of balance of payment theory, and the relationship with the exchange rate, foreign exchange rate. That Dr. Normizan also highlight about 4 approach, that are very important as a determination of foreign exchange rate. So okay, I invited the student to have to post the question and answer, to post a question for Dr. Normizan bin Bakar, maybe from UMY student or UUM student is also welcome.
Okay, you can ask me in Malay or English or even in Japanese. Inshallah, I will answer it.
Yeah.
Actually, during my undergraduate and master, and even in PhD, I learned this part in Japanese.
Yeah.
Because in Japan they don't use English for their class. Yeah,
I understand. So it's very difficult, doctor, to study for Japanese in the first year or a half of year or first year, or like bridging class a year.
What do you mean, sorry?
I mean, maybe when you study in Japan, so all of the semester you study in Japanese or mix.
Oh no, in Japanese, all in Japanese.
Oh,
yeah.
So
but the different only the language, the equations, the theory similar.
Yeah, the technique is still in English, yes, like Paul Krugman and etc.
Yeah. Okay. The only difference is only the language. So they call it, for example, exchange rate, they call it kawase. Yeah. So any questions you can have, my dear
So
students.
yeah, so actually it's very interesting topic, but you know, in my syllabus for the international trade,
Okay.
maybe I'm a bit forgot about the Marshall Leonard and also G curve,
Ah.
but okay, let's aside that kind of theory. But what I want to clarify here is that actually which one the maybe the better or the best regime of the uh, foreign exchange regime is that
Mm.
depend on the country, or you have like the formula maybe for
Mm-hmm.
Malaysia or
Mm-hmm.
for Indonesia, which
Mm-hmm.
one is the best regime, yeah, for the foreign exchange regime based
Oh,
on the four of approach of the theory of foreign exchange determination and balance of payment theory of foreign exchange.
oh. You mean the exchange regime meaning with the fixed exchange
Yeah,
or
yeah,
flexible exchange? Oh,
flexible or manage floating is like that.
oh, yeah, 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 yeah. So the general one is whether flexible or fixed. Okay, and other flexible we have floating manage, crawling manage, and so on and so forth. But we can say that whether floating or fixed. For me, the best one is floating. Yeah.
Okay.
Because with fixed, we need a lot of cost to control that fund. And as our economy is quite good, whether Indonesia or Malaysia, meaning that in terms of international trade, so if we have a floating, so it can justify, okay, our currency. Meaning that by having the free trade, it's been shown in the exchange rate too. Okay, but how to manage the exchange rate is very challenge.
Volatile, eh?
Yes,
Very
yeah,
up and down, very flexible. How it,
yeah, very flexible.
yeah. It's a challenge.
It's challenge, and it's a different kind of problems. Okay, but if you ask me about regime, I think floating is the best one. Floating is better than the fixed because
Even though,
during,
yes.
yeah,
Yeah.
go ahead.
During what? During what, doctor?
During our what do you call it as the currency crisis in 1998,
Mm-hmm.
okay, Malaysia changed our currency regime to fixed. Okay, for those who remember that analysis or remember that story, that events. So after the currency crisis in 1998, yes, Malaysia changed their regime from floating to fixed in order to fix the problem. Okay.
Mm.
And now after the problem solved, then we change back to the floating or flexible exchange rate regime.
Okay. So what about manage floating? Is that better or you still
yes,
step
yeah.
on floating?
Malaysia use managed floating.
Okay. Okay then. Yeah, the same. I also agree. Okay, doctor, we have a question from
Okay.
student.
Okay.
Rifki. Yeah, Rifki. Thank you, Dr. Normizan, for your great explanation. I would
Okay.
like to, yeah, I would like to ask some question. First is there, yes, is there any effect if there is a fluctuation in exchange rate to balance of payment? And what the effect to other countries? Thank you, doctor.
Oh, okay. Thank you for that questions. Okay. The effect of exchange rate to the balance of payment can be easily checked using the elasticity approach. Okay. So we can see that effect. That's why we have the Marshall-Lerner condition and the J curve effect or J curve situation. So meaning that when the exchange rate change, whether appreciation or depreciation, the effects of that change to the balance of payment may be immediate effects. There is balance of payment change immediately, but sometimes it takes time. That's why we have the curve effect. And one more, the point that I haven't explained to you today is the pass-through effect. We call it is pass-through effect. There is the change of exchange rate change to the price of goods. Okay, but because sometimes when the exchange rate changes, but price of good doesn't change. Okay, so there is the pass-through effect. So we need to check the pass-through effects too, because not all goods have a similar characteristic. Okay, so some goods can immediately be affected by the changes in exchange rate, but most of goods doesn't change the price when the exchange rate changes. Okay, and then the effects of exchange rate to the foreign country is quite difficult to explain in a word, because sometimes it will affect foreign country too, but mostly the country that will be affected by the change of exchange rate of other country is the country that have a lot of trade with that country, or we call it is the trading partner. Okay, so for example, for Malaysia, we our trading partner, best 10 or top 10 trading partner is ASEAN countries, America, Japan, and China. So if these countries' exchange rate change a lot, and then it will affect Malaysia too. That's why if you can check the what we call it as the effective exchange rate, or EER. So effective exchange rate is the simple idea of checking the effects of exchange rate to a bundle of countries. So I think I answered to your question.
Yeah, I think it's already answered. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mas Rifki, is that okay? Yeah, satisfying.
Yeah.
Yes. Dr. Normizan,
Okay.
now it's already 10 a.m.
Okay. Okay.
Actually, we are very happy if we extend the time, but I don't know, maybe you have another agenda
Yes.
in Malaysia. It's very happy here to having you here. Yeah. And then I hope that we could have another collaboration next semester. Inshallah.
Yeah.
So thank you very much for the UUM student, UMY student, yeah, for the contribution, for attending the class today. Dr. Normizan, thank you very much for the fruitful and very interesting topic. Hopefully, will be give the benefits for the student, inshallah. Jariyah, for Dr. Normizan bin Bakar. Thank you very much for all the attention. Jazakallah khairan katsira. Let's end up this session with hamdalah, istighfar, and doa kafaratul majlis. Alhamdulillah. Asyhadu an la ilaha illa anta. Okay, Dr. Normizan. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
So thank you all. And for my student, I will open the WebEx for the attendance after this. So thank you for UMI students, and thank you a lot for Dr. Dia. Inshallah, we meet again.
Thank you very much, Dr.
You're welcome.
Normizan. See you soon. Thank you.